What's going on, family? So let's jump right into this video. We're going to be talking about the guard system. Now that's using plastic guards as well as using detachable blades. These are stainless steel blades. All right. So there's not one way to do any haircut. There's not one way or one approach to do a fade. Now, I'm going to be using these words interchangeably. You might hear me say blend, you might hear me say fade, but they really mean the same thing. It's just going from skin bald with a gradiency or a transition from skin from a lighter to darker, darkest part of the head. All right. So when talking about the guard system, I'm just going to write guard system up top. When talking about the guard system, we're going to speak on the plastic guards. Now, you'll see guards as low as a 0, sometimes even a 000. I have a 000 guard for my plastic guards. Then you'll have a 0.5 guard, which is your half guard. Then you'll have your 1 guard, your 1.5 or your 1.5, your 2, your 3, your 4, and so on and so on. All right. Now, again, there's not one way to do a fade. There's not one way to do a particular haircut. You have different head sizes. You have different hair types. You have different spaces on the head as far as how much room you have to create guidelines in the head. So let's just say we have a particular client here and we're going to draw a head. Let's draw a head really quick. Ear here. Ear here. And we're going to make the neck. And this will be the back of his shoulders. This is the back of the head. So let's erase this right here. All right. So this is the back of the head. Now, let's just say we have a client that has about 2 inches of hair on his head. He's a waver and he wants his hair cut down to the standard guard, which is 1.5. So we got a waver. All right, waver. Standard wave size is 1.5 or 1.5. Now, if you're comfortable and your waves are trained really well, then sometimes people like to wear it a little thicker. So they'll allow their hair to be at a length of a 2 guard, which is 2 inches. All right, but for the sake of this example, we're going to use a 1.5. So we're going to cut the hair down to a 1.5. Now, this particular client wants not a even cut all the way around. He wants a fade. Now, there's different types of fades. There's low fades, there's mid fades, and there's high fades. Then there's low drop fades, there's mid drop fades, there's high drop fades. Kind of. But okay. Now, when I say low, mid, high, I'm not talking about hair lengths. I'm talking about the position on the head. So at the back of everyone's head, we're going to talk about a mid drop fade. This particular waver wants a mid drop fade. So that's the cut we're about to approach. Mid drop fade at a 1.5, at a 1.5 hair length. Now, what makes a fade a drop fade? Well, at the back of everyone's head, the center part at the back of everyone's head right here, there's a bone. And that bone is called your occipital bone. That's OCCIPITAL. Occipital bone. Okay, that's our occipital bone. Everybody has this bone at the back of their head. All right. So what makes a drop fade a drop fade? A drop fade is when the balding line is positioned underneath that bone. So it has to be underneath where that occipital bone is. So when it comes to this approach in this fade, This is not the technique. This is just a technique. There's not one way to do a fade. There's so many different ways to approach every haircut you're gonna do. But my approach for this example, the first initial guideline, the first initial line that I'm gonna put in, or line of demarcation, which is what a guideline is actually called from a technical standpoint. It's called a line of demarcation, but it's just really simply just said as a guideline. So my first line that I'm gonna put in this head to start to create my fade or my blend is my balding line. So right here, I'm gonna write bald line. That's the first line that I'm gonna put in to start this transition. So I need it to be a drop fade. So I'm gonna start my first initial balding line underneath that occipital bone. So I can put my balding line in with my trimmers. I can put my balding line in with my clippers. Now, if my clippers are zero gap, this will be a huge benefit to you, because what you put your balding line in, that same thing you put it in with, it makes it easy to take that line out. So to put my line in with my clippers, I do not want my clipper all the way open. Now, when it comes to the adjustment of this lever, when I have it all the way closed, that means that this steel blade, which is this back blade, this blade doesn't cut any hair. It's a steel blade. Now, the blade on the inside, that's the cutter blade. That blade moves side to side. This is what's actually cutting the hair. So when I have the lever all the way open, the steel blade creates a gap or a space, some distance between the steel blade and the cutter blade. But as I continue to close the blade, that steel blade is going to become flush or in alignment with the cutter blade. And that just simply means the clipper is zero gap. It's flush. The cutter blade and the steel blade is on the same exact alignment. Okay. So to put that balding line in with my clippers, I want to close it all the way. And then I'm going to put my line in all the way around the head. So we're not just talking about behind the head. This guideline is going to go all the way around the head. All right. So everything underneath that line, just say all of this was hair underneath here. Everything below the balding line has to be cleared out around the entire head. Okay. So what's the next thing in my approach that I want to do? We've cut the hair down to a 1.5. We've put in our initial balding line and we've cleared everything underneath that line. So now we have the hair down to the hair length we desire, which is a 1.5 for this waiver. And we now have the positioning of our mid drop fade with our balding line. We've cleared everything out. Okay, now that all the hair is cleaned out underneath that balding line, the next guard I'm going to grab is my 0.5 guard. Now, my approach is when I'm using my 0.5 guard, this guard allows me to take my fade up to the darkest point on the head. So what that means is after using my 0.5, after using my half guard, anything above that guard, I want it to stay dark as possible around the head. So I'm not going to push my fade up any higher than what this 0.5 guard, what this 0.5 guard's positioning is. So I'm going to take my 0.5 guard, following the balding line that we've already set in. I'm going to follow it all the way around the head. So I'm putting in my 0.5 guard line in now so that I can now start the transition of my blend. So I'm not going to grab another guard to create a new guideline, because where my 0.5 is, that's as high as I want the fade, the darkest part of the fade to go. Okay. So Everything now is going to be about lightening up that 0.5 and taking out the balding line. All right. So this is the approach. This balding line that we've just put in, let's just say we put it in with our clippers. We put this balding line in with our clippers. We closed it all the way and we put this line in all the way around the head. Okay. So now I'm going to take this same clipper and we're going to talk about lever positions, foundational lever positions. Now, I'm going to just write lever. Let me write lever position. Now, lever positions are open, halfway, close. Now, it does not matter the order you use your foundational lever positions. What do you mean lever positions? This is your lever. So you have all the way open, you have halfway. You see the lever is halfway in between. Then you have all the way closed. It does not matter the order you use this in. As long as you know where you are in your blend, you know what position to adjust your lever to. All right. So what we're going to do is to work out that balding line, we're going to take our clippers and we're going to close it all the way. And we're going to start to notch at that balding line that we put in. So we want to notch at that line all the way around the head. You can do it in sections or you can do it all the way around the head if that's what you desire to do. Again, it's your style. It's your approach to the head. There's no one way to do it. All right. So we're going to notch at that line. We don't want to go too high up because we're not cutting the line out. We're blending the line out. So you don't want to cut so much to where you've cut out the gradiency of the blend. It just goes from skin to dark. You want a gradiency there. So we're just going to notch at that line and then we're going to make our clipper halfway. And now we're going to continue with that line. We're going to go a little bit past the line we just notched at. After doing that all the way around the head, now we're going to open our clipper up all the way open. And we're going to go not all the way to the half guard line that we created, but right underneath, because that no guard on our clipper is going to blend easily into that half guard length. Okay. So we're going to be flicking up and flicking out, cleaning underneath, staying below that line, not going past that line, not going past that half guard line, just staying underneath that line, working it all the way around the head. All right. After we've done so, that line should be completely out. Okay. If there is any excess hair underneath, just take your trimmers and clear out those little areas, clean up, make those little details, in the blend clean so you can have a clean transition. The next thing we're going to do is we have to start attacking this 0.5 line, that 0.5 guard. Now, my approach, what I do is the hair is already at a 1.5 length up top, right? So we've taken out the balding line and we have this guideline here at a half. So what I want to do is I want to start lightening up this half guard because I do not have another guard that I'm going to put in to create a new line. I don't want to push my fade up any higher than where it is. I just want to start lightening up that line. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to take my 2 guard and remember we're doing a fade. So let's just say this was the ear, this was the head. Let's make it a little better. So around the head, let's just say this was just to line up. Now, when doing this drop fade, that line, it starts from the bottom of the vertical bar, which these lines that come straight down here, those are your vertical bars. And remember, this bone right here is your occipital bone. So at an angle, and I'll just do it like this, at an angle, that's how that line will be put in. So if you can imagine on that angle, if this is the bottom of the vertical bar, and my initial balding line in is at an angle coming underneath this occipital bone here. So just imagine that line coming across through there, and imagine another line coming across through here, creating that shape. So you have that shape coming around and underneath that occipital bone, right? Okay, so let's erase this. So I'm gonna grab my 2 guard, following the same shape, following the same line of the half guard. And we're going to debulk around the entire head. Now, what does debulking mean? Debulking means to basically just take whatever the hair length is on the side of the head and get it down to whatever the desired length is, so you can start your transition of your blend or your fade. So we're going to take this 2 guard, and instead of going with the grain is like you're brushing your hair. You brush your hair or you cut your hair with the grain, which means the direction that your hair is growing, the pattern that is facing, the grains of those hairs, you want to go with the grain, cutting down. We don't want to go with the grain. We want to go against the grain. So against the grain means I should be cutting against where the hair is. So if the direction of the hair is on an angle facing this way, I don't want to come at it like this, coming straight. My clipper needs to be on a side. You cut against the grain, meaning you cut in the direction that the hair is growing. So I'm going to take my 2 guard. I will be putting my 2 guard onto my clipper, and it's going to be, I'm going to debulk the hair all the way around the head, all the way around. Multiple strokes, making sure I'm getting the hair down to that desired length. All right. So after doing so, now I'm going to grab my 1.5, still only working now the half guard line that we've initially put in. That 1.5 is going to start lightening up this half guard. So after doing multiple strokes around that line, working out that half guard line, we're going to start with that 1.5 guard being open, and we're going to start lightening up that half guard line. After going through multiple passes all the way around the head, we're going to close our lever with the 1.5 guard still on our clipper. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to start lightening up the rest of whatever was left of that half guard while using our 1.5. Now, you may still have a hint of that line still in there. So what do you think we're going to do? We're going to walk it down. So we're going to grab our 1 guard. Grab our 1 guard. We're going to start completely open, and we're going to, whatever the 1.5 left behind of the half guard, we're going to, all the way open with our 1 guard, start to work at and notch at that line, lightening it up, cleaning that transition up so that it's a smooth gradiency, a smooth transition in our blend. Okay, at this particular point, that line should be out. But if it's not out, all you have to do is, whatever you put a guideline in, you take it out with the same thing. What do we put this initial line in with? We put it in with our half guard. So if there's something still left, or you see some details in the blend and or in your fade that isn't as clean as you would like it to be, grab your half guard. That half guard is going to take out the rest of whatever it is you see in that blend. Now, this is my approach of fading down. The first thing we did was we came in with our ball line. Then we came behind that with our half guard. We didn't put any more guidelines in after that. The half guard took us up to the place where we desired to be. All right. So the third thing we did is we started to debulk around the head. So we grabbed our 2 guard and we debulked around the entire head. After doing so, the fourth thing we did, we grabbed our 1.5 completely open and we started to lighten up the half guard line. After going around the entire head, we closed our lever with our 1.5 guard on, and we did the exact same thing. We started to lighten up whatever was left from the 1.5 open to what it could be at 1.5 closed. So we did that all the way around the head, only working the 0.5 guard line. After doing so, if there was something else left, the fifth thing we did, we grabbed our 1 guard. That 1 guard, again, completely open. We worked whatever the 1.5 left behind, but we're still initially only working the 0.5 guard line that we put in. So with the 1 guard all the way open, went all the way around the head, then we closed it, went all the way around the head, working it. If there was still yet something still there. Now, the reason why I continue to say if there was something still there, every step to every fade won't have to be made. There'll be times where you're cutting a difficult texture that might not need all of these steps or all of these guards. That's why I say there's not one way or one approach to a blend or to a fade. You have to make your judgment based on the client that's sitting in your chair. All right. So if there was something left over, the sixth thing would be just to grab your 0.5 guard again and work out whatever was left. Hit any details in that blend. This is a approach, not the approach. This is a approach to fading down. This is a approach to having a nice transition, making sure that I didn't push my fade up too high, so I only used my half guard, creating where I wanted my darkest part of my fade to be and where I wanted below that to be the lowest part or the skin part of my fade to be. Okay, so this is a way or an approach to using your guards fading down or blending down. All right.